Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we're here for part 2 of a 6-part series as we journey through Per Gynt by Henrik Ibsen. This video is over Act 2 of the 5-part play, after which we will have a review of the piece. So, jumping right into it, what happens in Act 2 is it turns out that Per and Ingrid, they did sleep together. He took her off to the mountains, and they did sleep together. An argument breaks out the next morning, and Per says that she was willing to sleep with him, and she concedes that she was, indeed, desperate. Per says that she has to go now because, well, Per's alone, and she says, no, we're together now. And Per says, no, devil take all the women's. Cut to Asa and Solveig's family searching for Per, and they split up because they need to cover more ground, as is the case in all horror films. And Solveig asks Asa to tell her everything about Per. She says, "You will get tired of listening to the stories I've got about Per." And she says, "No, you're going to be the one that gets tired of telling them." Cut to Per running for his life as he fears he is being pursued, and 3 young women approach. They are kissing him and speaking of how lonely they are for a man's touch, and they offer him alcohol. And here is a life lesson: if that ever happens to you, you're on your own, and 3 lovely young women come up to you and start kissing on you, telling you how lonely they are for a man, and they offer you alcohol, don't ask questions. Just go with them. That seems to be the answer. Cut to Per drunk as a skunk with twice the funk, and he's just drunk. That's it. That's all we got. Cut to Per finds himself in the presence of the Troll King's daughter. Hooray. Cut to Per and the Troll King talking terms for marrying his daughter. Per agrees, but during the festivities, he mistakes his future bride-to-be for a cow. Those things happen. The king says it's fine, no offense taken, we're just going to cut your eyes out. All goes to bunk and the king sicks the imps on Per. Per passes out and finds himself with the Boig. Boig, I am not exactly sure how to pronounce that, as I am not sure how to pronounce most words through this play. The Boig is a great serpent-like troll. And when he wakes from that, he is with his mother. And Solveig and... Give me one second here. Solveig, Helga, I think. Yeah, Solveig and Helga. So what's going on here? When Per abducts the bride from the wedding that he had attended, she had holed herself up in a room, which Per is able to break down the door to, snatch the bride, and run off to the mountains. Now, one thing that is worth noting here is the mountains are normally a place for enlightenment in literature. The mountains are normally a place where the individual goes in order to become a monk or something like that. Being the place of enlightenment, we come to see Per leaving the side of another woman. The woman that he had the crush on, the woman that he did, in fact, go after, goes to the mountains with her and realizes somewhere along the way, never mind, don't think I'll do this. Perhaps it is that he was never there to pursue her for life anyway. But it seemed to be that he was. It seemed to be that this was not just another fancy of Per, but that he was going to claim a bride. You could have had her. She could have been yours. In the mountains, he decides, it's all bunk. Never mind. Forget it. Kicks Ingrid out, and then goes off on his own. Solveig's family, while they are helping Ozza search for Per, they are absolutely sure that Per is hellbound. By the religious texts, hellbound. There is no hope for that boy, they feel. Why is that? Why is it that they feel Per is in fact bound for hell? Is it because he is a storyteller? Surely it's not just because he abducted the bride. Is it because he's a storyteller and he gives in to flights of fancy? Is it because he is not a hard worker that he is hellbound? There seems to be some inference there that this runs deeper than simply the choice to take a bride, take someone else's bride. On 34, in the midst of the Troll King, we get this little quote. Per asks, "Do you ask me to give up my Christian faith?" And the Troll King says, "No. That you are welcome to keep in peace. Doctrine goes free upon that there's no duty. It's the outward cut one must tell a troll by. If we're only at one in our manners and dress, you may hold as your faith what to us is a horror." So it seems the Troll Kingdom is the United States. In the Troll Kingdom, you're free to believe however you wish. You have to look a certain way, but you're free to believe however you wish. Is this more or less freedom than the society from which Per comes? In Per's society, you're not free to believe, to have faith in those things with which you wish to have faith. You're not free to have any religion you want. You gotta be a Christian, where Per comes from. Despite the fact that he has some stories where he's dealing with the devil himself, it seems. But in the land of the trolls, you've got to look a certain way, ways that one might deem silly. But despite that, you get to believe whatever you want. Is this more or less freedom? Per seems to be fine with it. He seems to accept a tail that is put on him. He seems to accept funny garb, but he's not willing to have his eyes cut out. He's not willing to lose the way he sees. That's when he decides, lickety-split, I gotta hit the road. And upon saying this, the imps are sicked on him. And I wonder what it is. I wonder what there is to be taken from that as well. The fact that he gets along fine in a world where he has to believe things, and he looks funny to those people. He's willing to accept the garb of the area of the Troll King, and after which he will inherit his own kingdom. But he doesn't have to change the way he thinks, and he's fine with that too. This is a character that seems to be pretty okay wherever it is he has to go and whatever it is he has to do. Is this... So we talked last episode about not being particularly worthwhile. Per was not. He was not particularly talented. He was not particularly hard-working. Are we going to get into situations here as the hero builds where he is willing to do things, even if he's not great at them? He's willing to do them. He's willing to pursue things. He's willing to accept different garbs. He's willing to try different things. Are we getting to the point where pure willingness is going to prove that skill through which he has to live, that skill through which he has to survive. I think there's something to be said for that, because if he's making his life as a traveler, that is the skill that he has to have. He doesn't have to be great at hunting to be a traveler. Well, he probably needs to be decent at hunting for survival. But if you're decent at hunting for survival, but you worship the devil, and you end up in Pear's hometown, they're going to kill you. If you dress a certain way and are refusing to change your garb, and you end up in the land of the Troll King, they're going to kill you. Does he have just enough lack of chutzpah to survive as a wandering man? Or is there some skill he's going to pick up along the way that helps him in this journey? When he is with the Troll King, and he says, "No, I'm going to keep my eyes," and he has the imps sicked on him, we sort of have a death scene. Everything goes black, and then he wakes up and he can't see. He wakes up and he feels this slithering thing around him. He dies and he is with the serpent. This is symbolism for hell. This is he's died and he's gone to hell, and when he comes back, he is resurrected. He is resurrected and seen first by his mother and a prospective lover. This is very clear symbology of dying, going to hell, being resurrected, and being seen by his mother and the Virgin Mary. That is the story of Christ. What is to be read into that? Was Christ simply one hell of a storyteller? Is there something to be made with that? Especially as he is not willing to give up his religion when he goes to this troll kingdom. Much in the way that Christ was not willing to give up his religion when he went to Rome. Jews were not favored people back during that time. And he came among them claiming to be king. Much in the same way that Per goes back to the troll kingdom with the troll princess claiming he's got a kingdom someplace else. You just don't know about it. You just don't know about it. So we have some definitive Christ-like symbology going on. And I'm not sure what to make of it at this point, but I think it's definitely worth watching going forward and what happens with that. But the one last thing that I want to talk about in this video is Per himself. Is Per a bad guy? We've got someone who keeps losing time and time again. Someone who keeps getting kicked out time and time again. Someone who is drawing ire from his entire people. Someone who was mocked before that even. Is Per a bad guy? I don't think so. A bit rough, sure. He did abduct a bride. But we see in that scene that, yes, she was willing to sleep with him. She was all right with that. She did have a crush on him before, and she tries to claim him as a husband then. That's the worst thing he's done. Pretty despicable, pretty bad. Not necessarily against anyone's best wishes, especially as she, Ingrid, the bride herself, the bride-to-be herself, had locked herself away on her wedding day, was refusing the marriage. So Per is not a bad guy, I don't think. Is he a good guy? Doesn't really appear so. The hero is almost always good at something, good for something. All he really has is his storytelling capabilities, which seem to get him in trouble more often than not, especially with his dear old ma. So what is he? Is Per an antihero? Drawing on that, is that a correlation with Christ? Christ, the antihero. Christ certainly not willing to be taken as a bad guy. Did not necessarily paint himself as the good guy at all times. Did things that were, he washed the feet of his followers, which is the thing that at the time would have been very strange for him to do. What's the king doing? Washing my feet. Brought a bullwhip into the temple to drive out the moneylenders. A bullwhip. Think about how serious that is, especially back in those times. Using a bullwhip on a person, gangrene happens real quick back in the day. That's basically the same as getting shot with a low-caliber pistol. Might not kill you immediately. You're going to have problems. Things are going to be different from you from that day forth. So I think that there are a lot of balls in the air that we've got to follow through this. Per an antihero. Is Per building towards something? Is Per building towards being a hero? What are these Jesus references that we keep sort of falling into in very cleverly disguised manners? These are not things that I think it would be easy to read this text and not catch on to those at all, and it wouldn't be silly not to do so. There are things that you've really got to look for them, I think. Especially the death and resurrection thing, where when Jesus was resurrected, he was seen first by his mother and Mary Magdalene. Here, Per is seen first by his mother and and Solveig and Helga. So what is going on there? And where does this go forward? Because with Jesus, the resurrection, last we heard from the guy for a while. So it brings a lot of questions as to what's going forward in this text, as we are only on Act 3 of 5. That is all I have for Act 2 of Gynt. I hope to have you back for Act 3. It helps me out a whole lot if you hit that like button. If you hope that things like this keep popping up in your recommended feed and you are not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you want to help me grow here on Strip Cover Lit, be sure to share this with someone who is perhaps a Henrik Ibsen fan, perhaps someone who is a fan of just literature, or perhaps someone who will absolutely tear apart the pronunciation that I put forth for these names.